Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 96 of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. My name is Bill Pivots. So before I get into this week's episode, we actually have a little bit of news. I know, it's very rare that I actually do news stuff on this show, but we got a tweet from a injured NXT superstar who could be making his return shortly, and that would be Hideo Itami. He's actually been out since October with a neck injury suffered on a house show, and he said he's returning to action. He tweeted out, "I am ready," and that was Tuesday night. It seems like every time there's a big TakeOver special, he seems to get hurt. He made his return at TakeOver Brooklyn, giving the GTS to, I believe it was Austin Aries, and it was I don't think he was on the following TakeOver, so it's been a little while since he's been on the show, and he's missed the last few TakeOvers, so it'd be nice to see him either make his return at San Antonio and build something up for the TakeOver special that's going to take place before WrestleMania in Orlando, or something along the lines in the next couple weeks. So it'll be nice to see Itami back in the ring, building something up for the future. So this week's episode was built around the contract signing of Bobby Roode and Shinsuke Nakamura. But before we got to that, the first match was Nikki Cross versus Kennedy Lewis. Cross was in control for a little bit on offense. Lewis tried making a comeback with a slap, but Cross took her down with a Luthez press and just pummeled her on the mat. She tried getting up, but Cross connected with a Fisherman neckbreaker to get the win. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sanity's entrance was a little longer than this match. Cross obviously gets the win heading into the women's four-way match for TakeOver. No Way Jose was in the back. He was asked about his 2017. He said he wants to have more fun. New year, but same Jose. Kona Reeves interrupted, saying that Jose knows nothing about friendship, and then challenged him to a match. We really didn't get a resolution on that. Nothing was promoted for next week. We then were prompted with a What's Next for Tye Dillinger segment. That took place later on in the show. Revival were interviewed next. They were asked what do they go from here after not capturing the tag team titles. They said that TakeOver should be a three-way match. TM61 interrupted. They said that you have to fight for your shot, but the Revival think that they're above that. Scott Dawson actually called TM61 the tilapia of NXT, the bottom feeders. That actually got a little bit of a chuckle out of me. Second match, Roderick Strong versus Steve Cutler. A little bit back and forth action early. Strong connected with a dropkick off the ropes. Cutler got some time on offense, slowed things down a bit, but Strong escaped a sleeper hold and hit an angle slam type maneuver. Strong put together a nice string of moves that ended with his sick kick to get the win. Decent match. Strong obviously gets the win coming off the loss in the four-way, and we haven't seen him for a couple weeks after that. He looks good. I don't think the crowd is as behind him, though, as some of the other indie imports that they've brought into NXT. But him and Andrade Cien Almas should have a good match if that's where they're going. He was actually interviewed after the match. He said he doesn't care what ACA has to say, that he came to NXT to win the NXT title. Ember Moon was backstage, asked about her role in the women's division, considering that the women's title match is already set. She was talking about forging her own destiny after the match is over. Liv Morgan then interrupted her, and apparently tonight was the night of interrupting promos and just getting what you have to say out. Liv challenged Ember to a match to see who the next contender should be. It was in time for the Tye Dillinger segment. He walked out looking a little somber. He wasn't as excited as he usually is. He said that he ended 16 with a big question mark. We then got a Royal Rumble number 10 chant. He said that he's thought about that. There's only so many times that you can let down the same people who've had your back for the last 15 years, and he doesn't know if he has it anymore. He then paused and started to turn up the intensity a little bit, but then that's when Sanity came out. Eric Young said that he's right, he doesn't have it anymore. He tried recruiting Dillinger to Sanity. I believe it was Sawyer Fulton who brought him a jacket. Ty grabbed it, dropped it on the outside. Young then grabbed it, entered the ring. He was sympathizing with Dillinger a little bit, saying he's been in his shoes before, but he can show him the light, he can show him the way. Handed him the jacket again. Ty dropped it, did his 10 taunt, and went and attacked both members of Sanity. He went for the tiebreaker on Young, but Damo came out of nowhere and planted him with the spear. He then landed a Samoan driver, and they all stood over Tye Dillinger. Damo then accepted the jacket from Young, and I think the crowd booed or really had no reaction to it. They then prompted that Dillinger will face Eric Young at TakeOver. Should be a nice undercard match. These two, they're both good in-ring workers, and together, I don't see how they could have a bad match. Third match, the Revival versus TM61. Revival didn't wait for them to get out of the ring as they attacked him at the opening bell. Wilder shoved Miller into the steps, and then the Revival went after Shane Thorne for a little bit. Miller took a little while to get to his feet, but when he did, he got the blind tag as they were going for the Shatter Machine. Miller missed a corner splash, and then I believe it was Wilder connected with a huge spine buster. The Revival went for their knee stomp off the corner, but Thorne held Wilder as Nick Miller rolled up Dawson to get the win. After the match, Revival attacked Miller. They hit him with the Shatter Machine. They then hit Thorne with a backbreaker elbow, and then that top rope stomp onto his left knee. Quick match, actually. Really not much going on. It was pretty much all Revival until the comeback. Crowd was pretty quiet for the win. I don't know if it's because they weren't expecting it at that short or the poor location of the finish. It was against the ropes, like pretty much in the corner. The post-match attack was actually pretty good. I liked it. Sets up the Revival for something along the lines. They're still ruthless, still the top heel team in NXT, but it actually writes off TM61 for a little bit. I did read somewhere that Thorne has a legit knee injury, and this was their way of taking him off TV. That's upsetting because I think this would have been a good feud as the Revival kind of makes their way out of NXT and builds up TM61 as like the second face team in the division. There's really no other team for them to feud with right now. TM61 would have been that other team as like an undercard tag feud as DIY and Authors of Pain fight for the tag titles. So the Revival are kind of just hanging in limbo until they come back. But by then, I think they should be on the main roster, either the night after the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. It was then announced that Ember Moon will face Liv Morgan next week, and it was time for the contract signing. William Regal was already in the ring. Roode was out first, then Nakamura. Entrances took about 5 or 6 minutes. I had to fast forward through all that. Bobby Roode said that the signings won't go the way of the other contract signings. There won't be any physical contact. He sees the money in William Regal's eyes and calls it the biggest money match in NXT history. I don't think so. These two are good. They're great, but I don't think this has been like a match everyone's been clamoring for. It's not like a Samoa Joe Nakamura or Samoa Joe Finn Balor. Step below that, but still should be a great main event. Bobby Roode brought up NXT TakeOver Dallas from last year, that it was Nakamura's in-ring debut, and Roode was sitting at ringside for it. He then made fun of Nakamura's haircut. He said he got a half haircut, didn't finish it all the way, and that he belongs in the Michael Jackson Thriller music video. Nakamura then had his turn on the mic. He said that he knew their paths with Cross. He likes Roode, and he looks like a Shiba Inu. Roode flipped out at that, and the crowd started chanting that. If you don't know, it's a Japanese dog. He said that Roode wants change as long as he's champion, and Roode said that they're not in Japan anymore, the land of zero talent. He said that the crowd's been slowly changing their pathetic lifestyles into something a little more respectable, and the crowd actually did New Day's Who chant as he was doing that, looking around like, who's done that? And it was actually perfect timing. I'm not usually a fan of the NXT crowds taking the chants to themselves, but that was actually pretty funny. Roode signed, and he actually went to do his glorious taunt, but Nakamura put his hand in front of his face. He said that Roode looks great. He said that Roode will not be taking his NXT title, and that in San Antonio, Nakamura will kick Roode's head off. They stared at each other a little bit. Nakamura signed and said that it will be, and Roode was flipping out, saying, don't do it, don't do it. He held up his arms, and the crowd chanted, glorious. Great contract signing. I appreciate the non-physicality of it, keeping these two apart, unlike the other contract signings we've seen. The verbal interactions were enough to get me excited for this match. Bobby Roode obviously confident in himself, a little cocky, a little bit of it in his own world in some of the stuff that he says, but that's his character. Nakamura, straightforward, a little comical at times, so they worked well together off that. But I think the ending was great with him using the glorious catchphrase getting inside Bobby Roode's head. That was actually, no pun intended, glorious. I'm actually looking forward to see how these two mesh in the ring. Like they said, their paths haven't crossed. Roode was in Florida in TNA for the longest time. Obviously, Nakamura was in Japan, so they really didn't have any overlap in their careers. So it'll be interesting to see how they work together in a couple weeks. So the TakeOver card is as follows. You got Nakamura, Roode, DIY, Authors of Pain, Asuka, Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, Nikki Cross, Tye Dillinger, and Eric Young. And I'm assuming Roderick Strong versus Andrade Cien Almas. Not that bad of a card. Undercard actually has a chance to shine, and the 3 title matches look good on paper. And again, next week, Liv Morgan, Ember Moon. They also announced on the show that the year-end awards for for NXT in 2016 are posted, and you actually have until January 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to vote for that. There are 7 categories. I'm actually going to go through them now. You have Takeover of the Year, Dallas, Takeover the End of the Beginning, Brooklyn 2, and Toronto. I believe I voted for Toronto. I was there at Brooklyn Live. I enjoyed it, but I think this stuff that happened at TakeOver with DIY actually winning the titles, and I think that's where Nakamura won his title as well, just made for a great card. Tag Team of the Year, American Alpha, TM61, Authors of Pain, The Revival, DIY. As much as I like American Alpha and DIY, I had to give it to the Revival. The common denominator in DIY and American Alpha matches was the Revival. They were the cornerstone of that tag team division, having great matches with all the teams. And I think they'll have a great shot at the main roster if they go to SmackDown. I think they'll get buried on Raw. I think SmackDown with American Alpha already there could be their year, but 2016, the year of the Revival. You then have NXT Breakout Star of the Year, No Way Jose, Ember Moon, Andrade Cien Almas, the combination of Peyton Royce and Billy Kay, and Sanity. I went with Ember Moon. Billy Kay and Peyton Royce are just getting there at the turn of the new year. Sanity, a little too new. Andrade Cien Almas, his heel turn is going to make him a bigger star than than being a babyface would have been. And No Way Jose is a good mid-card act, but he really hasn't elevated himself. He's been pretty much stagnant since debuting. But Ember Moon, always flashy, always exciting. She's got pretty good promo work. So next year, I think she'll be NXT Women's Champion, and 2016 was her breakout. NXT Female of the Year. You got 3. Bayley, Nia Jax, Asuka. Asuka, no doubt. Bayley was good, but Asuka has just carried this women's division since she won the title, and it was her year. NXT Male of the Year. Finn Balor, Nakamura, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode. I went with Samoa Joe. Again, similar to the Revival, he was the constant in the NXT main event scene, having matches with Finn Balor and Nakamura. His heel work, probably the best I've seen in a while, and I'm looking forward to his main roster debut as well. Maybe in the Royal Rumble, who knows? But I have to give it to Samoa Joe. There was no one better in 2016. NXT Competitor of the Year is a combination of both the female and male competitors. Bayley, Nia Jax, Asuka, Finn Balor, Nakamura, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode. I gave it to Samoa Joe. Same reasons. A lot of great competitors in this award here, but I think Samoa Joe was best 2016. We then have Match of the Year, which there's about maybe 10 matches. Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura. It was on NXT TV July 13th of last year. Asuka, Mickie James, NXT TakeOver Toronto. Alpha vs. The Revival, tag title match at TakeOver The End. Sami Zayn, Nakamura, TakeOver Dallas. Bayley, Asuka, TakeOver Dallas. Sami, Samoa Joe, the 2 out of 3 Falls match on TV, February 17th, 2016. Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, Steel Cage match, TakeOver The End. DIY Revival, their 2 out of 3 Falls match at TakeOver Toronto. Bayley, Nia Jax, July 20th, 2016. Dillinger, Roode, TakeOver Toronto. Neville, Finn Balor, March 2nd, 2016. Shinsuke, Joe, Tag Team NXT Championship match, TakeOver Toronto. And the final one is American Alpha Revival, 2 out of 3 Falls match, NXT TV, July 6th. I went with DIY Revival, 2 out of 3 Falls, Tag Team title match, NXT TakeOver Toronto. Great match, great story. I'm surprised their Brooklyn match isn't on here, but I guess I had to pick one of the two, and I guess with DIY winning the tag titles here, it made sense to pick this one. Just the story behind it, the submission at the end, them holding their arms, the crowd in Toronto, I have to go with this match. There were a couple other ones I could have went with. American Alpha Revival, that would have been a good one. Their 2 out of 3 Falls match. Maybe the Samoa Joe Finn Balor match, but I got to go with the tag team title match. So go on to WWE.com, search for the NXT year-end awards to pull up. You do have to tweet them out using 2 hashtags, the award title, or the name of the award, and your winner. So for TakeOver the Year, like hashtag NXT TakeOver the Year, hashtag Brooklyn, or whatever you guys choose. So head over to that. You have until January 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern to get that done. All right, so that wraps it up for this episode of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. I'll be back next week with episode 97. We got Ember Moon, Liv Morgan next week. Peace.